61 years. Somebody yesterday thought this was me. It's not me. It could be me. Take a look at that. Then turn it over and see how you answer question 6. When you get your permit, on your permit application, you have to say yes or no in question 6. Okay? So you're an always. You've always been an always. That's pretty good.
Yep.
That's not pretty good, it's great.
It was a requirement.
By who?
I only had pretty much one person I drove with.
Yeah,
My mother didn't have a license, no car, so I basically drove my brother-in-law,
yeah.
and it was a requirement of everyone in the car.
You're kidding.
So,
Good for him, good for you.
yep.
Yeah. I didn't start wearing, well, this crash I'm going to tell you about on November 4th. I don't even turn my vehicle around. I was a little late today coming here, but I knew when I left, I said, yeah, I gotta go back in the house and get something. And I knew I was gonna go back in. I had to see. Well, how many of you coming to school today? If you came in a car or truck, how many of you put this on? Yeah. It's part of our culture now. Now, you might put it on in different parts of the car. That's what I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna ask you your seatbelt use, never, sometimes, most of the time, always. All right? Now, Mr. Chandler's going to go. He's going to come back. Where's he going? Well, here's the deal on this. For the last 18 years, ever since I've been doing this, I've always asked the driver and teacher to leave the classroom. We'll say Aiden never wears a seatbelt. Mr. Chandler doesn't need to know who's a never and who's a sometime, who's a time. It's just, I just feel more comfortable for you. It's just what I've done for the last 18 years. So we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. All right, so I'm going to ask you your seatbelt use in 3 different positions in the car. All right, so just raise your hand the appropriate answer. Mr. Chandler's out here, doesn't know who's saying what. Here we go. When you're driving, you know, just Mark, where's that door? Here we go. When you're driving. Hang on. Give me choices here. When you're driving, never. Sometimes. Most of the time you wear a seatbelt driving. How about always? 15 out of 13. All right.
I'm scared of myself.
Right, here we go. Shotgun. Shotgun is the passenger front seat. Here we go. In the shotgun spot, never. How about sometimes? How about most of the time in the spot? How about always in the spot? Okay, 15 out of 15. Now the back seat needs a little explanation. We're talking about properly belted. All right? We're going to go in the back seat now. When our kids were younger, they used to sometimes take the Niels Bullen part in the back seat and put it behind them. Why? Well, if you're going on a trip, you know, maybe only 1 or 2 of them are in the back seat, so they can hang out like this. So if you've done that, put it behind you. What you have on left is a lap belt. So you're not properly belted with this. So be it most of the time, if you put it behind you for some reason. Okay, and the other part of this is, well, a lot of people your age sit in the back seat with more than 3 people. All right? Well, how many of you have been in the back seat with more than 3 people? Yeah. And if you weren't properly belted, you're sitting here, be it most of the time. Okay, because you're properly belted. Or maybe you double belted.
I've never done a double belt. I've done it.
Well, depends on how friendly you are with that person again. That's a different story. All right, here we go. Back seat. Back seat, ready? Ready? Here we go. Skyler, ready? Thanks. Here we go. Back seat, never. How about sometimes in the back seat? We got 1, 2, 3. Okay. No, most of the time in the back seat. Okay. How about always in the back seat? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Maybe, Greg, just tell Mr. Chandler to me. All right, it's always less. It's always less. All right, let's go Skylar. Let's go to Mr. Chandler on a little survey here. What's the B stand for?
Driving, seatbelt.
That's supposed to be a D, by the way. Sorry about that. We were what?
13 or 13.
Yeah, shotgun.
Passenger seat, shotgun.
Yeah. Back seat.
And 4 for backseat.
Properly belted. It's always less. I can't remember last, this is the first school I've been to this semester. I went to 45 high schools last semester, and I didn't go to one high school in Vermont, and we did actually a couple in New York, that there was more than 50% in the backseat. Well, here you go, here's how your colleagues did, not your colleagues, but your classmates. Yesterday morning, 24. Yesterday afternoon at 1:30, 18, 5. Backseat. You guys are 13, 4. Always less than the backseat. Why?
Because the seat in front of you makes you feel safer, maybe.
And you're absolutely right. You feel safer. There's no question you feel safer in the backseat. What else? Yeah.
No one tries to cram in the front two seats. If you're doing cramming, you're cramming in the back seat.
You don't get 7 people in the front seat. I'd be a little scared.
I've never tried that before. People are discouraged.
Yeah. And also, somebody yesterday mentioned in both those classes, yesterday they said, well, it doesn't go ding, 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 ding in the back seat. Next time you get in the back seat, don't do it for very long. Wait till the car starts and don't have a seatbelt on, just for, maybe 2 seconds. And you won't hear the ding, 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 like you do in the passenger and the driver. And then immediately put it on if you try that. It doesn't, hard to find. I had a girl yesterday say, well, my Uncle Joe, when he drives, he's a good driver, I don't need to wear a seatbelt. How about the person coming at you? Huh? You don't know if the person coming at you is a good driver or not. The back seat, I really hope you listen to this. I didn't know this until maybe 7 or 8 years ago. The back seat's 5 times more dangerous. The back seat is more dangerous than the front seat. Let's find out why here. Let's go with, hi. What's your name?
Dixie.
Dixie, thank you for volunteering, Dixie.
If it's more dangerous, why do we put infants back there?
Huh?
Why do we put infants in the back seat?
Well, put them in car seats, usually turned around backwards, aren't they turned
True.
around backwards?
Till they're
You
40
can't
pounds.
put them in the front seat because of the airbag.
Yeah, airbags, there's no airbags in the back, as we'll find out here. Hi, what's your name?
Justin?
Justin, thanks for volunteering, Justin. All right, Justin. Dixie. Dixie, good. Dixie, go for a seatbelt on. Why? Everybody wears a seatbelt. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Justin, no seatbelt. All right? Hey. Here we go. Here's the attach yourself. Okay? So when I give you the nod, what's your name?
What?
Laura?
No, Eve.
Eve. Yeah. Yeah, there you go, Eve. When I give you a nod, we'll give it a crack. Okay, here we go. All right, let's see what happens if you touch. No, you're not gonna do that. She's gonna do that. With the Neil's boom belt on, you go 4 inches. It catches you in 4 inches. Doesn't catch Justin. Does not catch him. 5 times more dangerous, back seat. All right, here we go, this is real. Stand up, Justin. No, hey, hang on, stay here. Here we go. You're gonna go, first of all, you're gonna go violently into the back of Eve.
Dixie.
Dixie. Dixie. You go violently in the back of her chair. No airbag here, nothing to protect her. Dixie's got seatbelts, she's got airbags, he's got nothing to protect him. Uh-oh, there's an elbow, Justin. Here we go. You sit in the middle now. The middle is even more dangerous because cars used to have bench seats. Cars had bench seats where you could put 3 people in the old days. Now we build cars with bucket seats. So a few trucks still have bench seats. All right, ready, Eve? Yeah.
I'm gonna go through the windshield.
Well, you don't go through the windshield.
I'll get the.
Yeah, first of all, turn around here. This guy's a pretty good looking guy, isn't he? That was a unanimous shot.
Wow.
He said yes.
But if he went through the windshield, he most likely would be decapitated.
That sucks.
Windshields, yeah, that's rough. The windshields today are laminated in the front, and so you hit it and they spike it. Okay? Okay? Now, I don't know if you know physics or you've had physics, but there's a tremendous amount of power in these cars. These cars have unbelievable power. I have a little four-cylinder Toyota Tacoma. Says I can go 120 miles an hour. It's ridiculous to think that they would build a car that can go 120. First of all, it's against the law, other thing I would say, but it has so much power. So much power. So in this little story here, Dixie's going to be driving at 30 miles an hour. That's velocity. telephone poles, cars are going, not cars, but trees are going by at 30 miles an hour. Now this next thing is hard to understand in physics terms. How fast are Justin and Dixie going only relative to the car? Going 0. Relative to the car. We know relative to the trees and the telephone poles are going 30. The equation is force, that's when Dixie hits that oak tree at 30 miles an hour. Force equals mass times acceleration, not velocity. Now, we know Justin's going 0 relative to the car. When she hits that oak tree at 30 miles an hour, you're going to accelerate from 0 to what?
30.
30. Okay? Now, if you're ejected, which you usually are, oh, wait. Justin said I locked the doors. Well, you lock the doors to keep people out. You don't lock the doors to keep yourself in. Alright? When she hits that oak tree at 30 miles an hour, every state trooper I've ever talked to, every ambulance driver said at 30 miles an hour, almost always the doors fly open. Alright? So, get a little crash here, Eve. In fact, let's do this. We'll take a little, we'll do it in here. Because we get the video going here. Hang on a second. Try not to get this into a knot, and I do not have a knot. Hang on, just hold that a second. All right, this all happens within 1 second. Are you ready, Justin? All right, you got a seatbelt on?
Dixie.
Dixie, you got a seatbelt on too, Eve? Yeah. Dixie, you got a seatbelt on? You're gonna go 4 inches. All right, ready, Eve? Yeah. Go, this all happens within 1 second. Go! Go! Keep going! Keep going! Keep going! Little field trip here, sign up, see what it is. Keep going, Justin! Justin, keep going! Where are you? Where are you? He's outdoors. All right, come on back! Get that right. Well, let's ask Dixie, how are you? How are you? You okay, you went 4 inches? All right, let's ask Justin. Oh, we probably in real life wouldn't be able to ask him. How are you, Justin? Dead. Yeah, here's a good tip for you. 95% of the time, 95% of the time, Justin's DOA. What's DOA? Dead on arrival. Time the ambulance gets there, first responder, Justin's dead. I hope you think about this. Backseat is 5 times more dangerous. I never knew this until a few years ago. Little hand for Dixie and Justin here. Okay. It's a lot on safety, but the seatbelt, well, let's do this, Skylar. Stay right there, Skylar. Time me how long it takes to put on the Neil's balloon belt. Just say go and then do 1 cougar, 2 cougars, whatever you want.
Go. 3 seconds.
Yeah, it's between 3 and 6 seconds. And I can't think of a simpler thing in your life you can do to save your life in 3 seconds. And I can't think of an argument not to wear a seatbelt. I didn't wear one. I'm not lecturing you. I am definitely not lecturing you, but I'm just telling you it's simple things you can do and your friends can do. Now you guys are great in the front seat, great. But those 9 people in the back seat, they're going to go flying. I was down at Springfield High School last spring, really good driver and teacher, not as good as Mr. Chandler, but a good one, named Kevin Anderson. Driver and teacher at Springfield High School. Been a state trooper in Vermont for 30 years. And then he retired, took some driver ed certification, became a driver and teacher. So I saw him last spring in April, and I've been there a number of times. So I said to him, I call him Trooper Anderson in this story. I said, Trooper Anderson, how many car crashes have you investigated in the state of Vermont over the last 30 years? It's over 1,000. 30 years, that's like 30 a year, about 35 a year. I said to him, and I asked him this question, I had never asked it to him before. I said, Trooper Anderson, in those 1,000 car crashes that you responded to and investigated, how many times did you ever see a person that was ejected, thrown out, walk away? Never. I said, wait a minute. Let's think about this now. 1,000 cars, you never saw a person walk away? Not anybody who was ever ejected, ever. How about that? How about that? He said, it doesn't mean they were the same as Justin DOA, he said, but a lot of times they were so injured, they probably wish they were dead. I really hope you make your friends in the back seat wear a seatbelt. I really hope you do. I wish Andrew had a seatbelt on. Well, who's Andrew? Well, Andrew's just starting to tell you about November 4th. And what worst day of my life. The two girls, thanks. The two girls are Andrea and Susan. They're going to be in the story. They both are seniors at this high school. I go to about 45 high schools a year. This is the toughest one for me, this presentation to do. Why? Well, because our kids went to this school. They went to the ID, they went to Browns River, they came here. Andrea was a senior. If I get emotional, I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. But sometimes when I come into this building, I get emotional. Because this is a special place for our kids. Special place for Andrea. Captain soccer team, played basketball, ran track and field, involved in all kinds of stuff. Well, on November 4th, her and Susan, her best friend, decided they were members of the yearbook. And they're going to take some pictures for the yearbook. Because they're both seniors. And they're going to take some pictures of the Browns River Middle School. That's where they became friends. Susan had gone to the Underhill Central School. Andrew had gone to the Underhill ID School. And then they went to the Browns River. In 5th grade, they became really good friends. And now it's their senior year, they're still good friends. So they are going to take some pictures on November 4th, about 4:30 of the Browns River Middle School. How many of you went to Browns River? Yeah, so you guys know what I'm talking about. Went to the Hump or someplace else, you know what I'm talking about. So they left, Susan came to our house. This is hard for me to say. Usually in Brattleboro I say, Susan came to Andrew's house, but I'll say our house. Susan came to our house, we live right next to near Jacob's store on Park Street. Susan came down the road, had a seatbelt on. They both always wear a seatbelt. Always. Front seat, back seat, you just wear a seatbelt. Right? So Andrea, waiting for Susan, they're going to go from our house, Andrea's house, to the Browns River Middle School to take pictures of the yearbook. It's about a quarter, maybe half a mile from our house down to the Browns River Middle School. So Andrea's at the house, kind of waiting for Susan to drive in. So Susan drove down our road. So Andrea said to us, my wife and I, Sue, her mom, she said, Ma, Dad, we're going down to the Browns River Middle School to take those pictures. I'll be back in a half hour. Right? So we said, yeah, we'll see you a little later. All right? Put Andrea right here, just for now. All right? Now, they both always wear a seatbelt. Susan had her seatbelt on. Most of this is what Susan told the state police after the crash. But as I go into this a little more, think of a friend in mind. Have a good friend in mind, because you're going to be driving with friends someday. It's just a fabulous thing. I have a friend named Brian. It's not Brian Chandler. It could be Brian Chandler and Brian Hembridge. Really good friend of mine. It could be you too also, Brian. Got the first name of a good friend?
Yeah,
Name?
John.
John. How about the name of a good friend? Okay. How about the name of a good friend?
Jake.
Jake. Good friend.
Cooper.
You guys? Yeah. Good thing you said each other. Right? Have a good friend in mind. Andrew and Susan are best friends. Friends since 5th grade. All right? So here's what happened. Andrew got in. Always wear a seatbelt. Now, if you're in always, which many of you are in the front seat, but not in the back seat, but if you're always, you close the door, what do you do next? You put the Niels balloon belt on. You don't even think about it. It's just a habit. You've done it all your life. I've done it since November 4th. The day Andrea was in a crash with Susan. Always. Close the door. That's what Andrea happened.